I loved this book. I'm going to talk about a couple of... it's done phenomenally in this book. Is that a word? Phenomenally? It's done phenomenally. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all well. It is officially Pride Month, so I thought I would sit down and film a video and show you all of my favourite books with LGBTQ+ rep within them. I'm going to be talking about 11 books today, all of which are some of my absolute all-time favourites for very different reasons. They're spread across a few different genres. It's not just fantasy, you'll be pleased to know. And all of these books have a range of representation within them, which I will talk about as I tell you about them. But yes, I'm sharing with you today my all-time favourite LGBTQ+ books, and I'm very, very excited about it. So I'm just going to get into it. I'm going to start off with my young adult contemporaries that I want to talk about. And some of these books I read before I started Booktube, so you wouldn't have heard me speak about these like at all, which is very exciting. The first book that I really want to speak about is The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. This is a YA book that is told in verse, and it is actually this author's debut, I believe. This is literally a stunning coming-of-age novel. It's told in verse and it explores the themes of identity and the importance of drag. We follow our main character Michael, who is a mixed-race gay teen who is growing up in London. He's had to navigate his whole life what it means to be a Greek, Cypriot and Jamaican, but he's never quite felt Greek enough or black enough. So in this book, we follow Michael as he starts to learn who he is and where he fits in, and as he discovers the drag society and finally finds where he belongs, and the Black Flamingo is born. It's honestly such a beautiful book. I cannot even tell you. I'm really hoping to reread this for Pride Month because it is told in verse. It is quite a quick read. Honestly, if you haven't read this one yet, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you do so. It's just stunning. The storytelling and the power of the words through verse is just, it's incredible. I love books in verse, but I genuinely think that this is the best one I've ever read. And there's beautiful illustrations in this book as well. I just highly, highly recommend it. The next one I'm going to talk about is Felix Ever After by Case and Calendar. I read this one, I think, back in October or November for the Rainbow Readers Book Club, and it blew me away. I absolutely loved this. This book follows our main character Felix, who is a transgender teen who is also grappling with his identity, whilst also falling in love for the very first time. So in this book, Felix is receiving anonymous texts being transphobic, and someone has publicly posted photos of Felix before he transitioned with his dead name, and so Felix tries to come up with a plan for revenge and to find out who has done this to him. This really is a stunning story of self-discovery and learning love for yourself, and in this Felix goes on it's just an incredible journey of finding himself and finding love for himself and recognising the love that he deserves. It's a stunning story. There's obviously some trigger warnings in here. I absolutely loved this. I fell in love with Felix and his story, and although it was hard to read in places, I would just highly recommend it. It was amazing, and this would be a fantastic choice of a book to pick up for Pride Month. Now I'm going to talk about The Henna Wars by Adiba Jagirda. I read this one back in February, I believe, maybe March, and I just absolutely loved it. In this, we follow our main character, Nishat, who comes from a strict Bengali family, and she is coming out to them as a lesbian, and they just decide to ignore it and to sweep it under the carpet and to just think it's a phase. So Nishat is having that to deal with, whilst also all of the struggles of being a teenage girl. And at school there is a business competition, and she decides to go solo and to do a henna business. Now there's also another group in her class that have decided to do a henna business, thus creating the Henna Wars. It's such a beautiful sapphic romance. I just absolutely adored this book, and I'm so excited to read Hani and Issue's Guide to Fake Dating by this author, hopefully this month. Yeah, it was just stunning. I loved Nishat. I loved her little sister Preeti. I absolutely adored the dynamics between Nishat and Flavia, who is like her rival slash crush in the book. It's just amazing. I absolutely adored it, and I would highly, highly recommend for a sapphic choice for Pride Month. The next book I'm going to mention is Camp by Elsie Rosen. This was also a Rainbow Readers Book Club pick. I believe it was March, for Mask March. This has a gay relationship in it, but there's also so much more representation than that. It's just phenomenal. So following our main character Randy, and every single year he goes to a summer camp curated especially for queer teens. And this year he has decided to completely reinvent himself in order to impress this boy that he's fancied for however many years, and he has reinvented himself as Dell. This year, instead of going to musical theatre, he's going to play sports, and he's just completely changed who he is. And basically we follow Randy / Dell as he discovers whether it's actually worth changing himself for one person. This is like a hug in a book. Honestly, I just loved it so much. Like, obviously we're dealing with Randy's self-discovery journey as well, but like the characters and the rep in this is just phenomenal. I loved Randy's friends so much. Like, they are friends that everyone would want in their lives. Like, I feel like this is perfect for Pride Month because there's so much representation in this book, but also like it's set in the most summery setting you could ever imagine. I loved this book. And the final YA contemporary that I really want to speak about is The Falling in Love montage by Kiara Smith. This one follows our main character, Saoirse, who is a lesbian, and she goes to a party and she meets this girl, Ruby, and she's new in town. She's just staying in town with her cousin, so she doesn't actually go to the school. They get to know each other and they sort of hit it off, and they start talking about movies and how there's never a good lesbian love story in a movie. And so they decide to create their very own falling in love montage. However, they're not actually allowed to fall in love. You can probably guess how it pans out, but it's just like so cute. Again, this book gives me like the ultimate summer vibes. Like, they go to a fairground and go on the big wheel. I recently read Not My Problem, also by this author, and what this author does so well, she uses a mixture of humour and hard-hitting topics in books to just create these phenomenal stories. So there is a big trigger warning in this book for dementia. It's raw and it's honest and it's beautiful, but it's also literally hilarious, and I love this book. And I also highly recommend Not My Problem by this author, which is coming out very soon. It will probably be out by the time this video goes up. I'm now going to talk about a few fantasy standalones because I know not everyone likes committing to series. So like, I got you. The first one I really want to talk about is Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas. So in this book, we are following our main character, Yadriel, who is determined to prove himself to his very traditional Latinx family. They're having problems accepting his true gender and identity as a transgender male. So he becomes determined to prove himself as a real Brujo. So with the help of his cousin Maritza, he summons a ghost, Julian, and basically himself and Julian have this pact where they're going to help each other out. So Julian is going to help Yadriel prove himself to his family, and then Yadriel is going to help Julian find closure with his past life before he moves on to the afterlife. Julian and Yadriel, they're just incredible. I love them both so much. It's heartbreaking, it's honest, it's beautiful, it's hilarious. I couldn't recommend this book anymore if I tried to. The next book that I would like to talk about is In the Ravenous Dark by A.M. Strickland. This is another book that I just refuse to shut up about, and you'll be hearing me speak about this a lot. And I'm not mad about it, and you shouldn't be either, okay? So this book is set in Thanapolis, where those who are gifted with magic are assigned an undead spirit to guard them and also to control them. And ever since Roven's father died when she was very young, she has kept her magic hidden in order to protect herself from this fate. However, she accidentally reveals her powers whilst saving a friend, and she is thrust into the palace and bound to a spirit. Raven is desperate to escape, and she finds herself falling for two people that she doesn't know if she can fully trust. Lydia, who is the princess, and she's rebellious and she's beguiling, and Ivralos, the very guardian that she is bound to, and he has the ability to control Roven, mind, body and soul. Together, they uncover a secret that will destroy Thanapolis if they don't do something about it, and so to save them all, Roven has to start a rebellion in the mortal world and in the underworld. I cannot tell you how effing incredible this book is. So our main character is pansexual. We also have a non-binary main character, Jafar, who is the most wholesome, beautiful character I have ever read about in my life. I am just obsessed with them. And a beautiful polyamorous relationship. It's just written so damn well. The magic is dark and it's deadly and it's a bit gross, and it's just like, it draws you in, like you can't help but like read more and more and more. I've never read a book that left me so shocked on so many occasions. If you like dark magic and intricate magic and like vampirism and stuff like that, I think you'll love this book, honestly. Which leads me very nicely onto the next book that I want to speak about, which is Beyond the Black Door, also by A.M. Strickland. I'm sorry if you watch all of my videos and you have to watch me incessantly babble about this book, but I will not stop because I have an agenda for this book and it's working because my friends are reading it and it makes me so excited, okay? So this book is also a fantasy standalone, and we are following our main character, Kamai. Now, Kamai and her mother are soul walkers, which give them the ability to walk in other people's souls. And no matter which soul Kamai walks into, there is always a black door that beckons to her. Her mother has always told her that no matter what, doesn't matter what the circumstances are, she is never ever to open the black door. But when the unthinkable happens and tragedy strikes, Kamai opens the black door. This is a dark and imaginative standalone fantasy. It's just incredible. Our main character, Kamai, is coming to terms with her asexuality. There's also lots of other fab queer rep in this book. Once again, just like in the Ravenous Dark, the twists and the turns and the plot twists are just second to none. This is one of my all-time favourite books ever. The asexuality representation in here is phenomenal and I highly, 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 highly recommend it. I have two more that I want to speak about. The first one being Malice by Heather Walter. This I have spoken about quite a few times on my channel as well, and it is a sapphic Sleeping Beauty retelling from the perspective of the villain. I loved it so much when I read it. We follow our main character Alice, who is the Dark Grace, who has mysterious dark magic running through her veins. She is the last of her kind, and when she meets Aurora, the princess, Aurora tells her that she should be proud of these gifts and that she should not be ashamed of who she is. And Aurora has a year left to live before the curse kills her. So Alice decides to help her because if it is her magic that cursed her, maybe her magic can lift it. And I'm just going to read you the last line of the synopsis of the book. We all know how this story ends, don't we? Aurora is the beautiful princess and I am the villain. It's so good, it's so sapphic, it's just incredible. If you appreciate retellings, you'll definitely love this one, and I highly recommend it. Last but definitely not least, I'm going to talk about Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nyan. Now this is the first book in a trilogy. The third book is coming out at the end of this year and I am so excited about it. I'm not going to lie to you, Girls of Storm and Shadow, which is the second book in the trilogy, is actually my favourite. I loved them both a lot, but if I had to say, then this one to me is definitely better because you've got the basis of the plot, you've gained the character arcs, and in this one it's just like the most phenomenal adventure ever. Like, I loved it. But obviously, if you haven't read the first one, I'm not going to tell you to go and read the second one just because it's my favourite. So I'll talk to you a little bit about this one. Each year, 8 beautiful girls are chosen as paper girls to serve the king. It's the highest honour they could hope for and the most demeaning. This year there's a 9th and instead of paper, she's made of fire. So we're following our main character Lay, who is a paper caste. It's set in a society where there are 3 castes and paper caste is the lowest you can be. The guards have come to take Lay away to be a paper girl whose rumoured beauty has piqued the king's interest. She does the unthinkable and she falls in love. This forbidden romance becomes entwined with an explosive plot, and Lay must decide how far she's willing to go for justice and for revenge. It's amazing. I loved it so much. These 2 books are one of my favourite series ever. I am so excited to read the finale of this trilogy. It's one of the best endings I've ever read, but also the most frustrating because I couldn't go straight into a third book. There are some very heavy trigger warnings that you should definitely look up before you go and buy them, but I love them so much. Definitely some of my all-time favourite books, all-time favourite fantasies, and they're sapphic, so like what more could you want? The second book also has some other queer rep, which is fantastic, but the first book mainly focuses on a sapphic relationship. And those are my all-time favourite queer books. I might end up making a part 2 to this because there's so many more that I haven't spoken about in this video that I would really love to speak about. Let me know down below in the comments what your favourite LGBTQ+ book is and why. If you did enjoy this video, please make sure to give it a big thumbs up and to subscribe to my channel. I do post bookish content regularly. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!